goes the exhaust. So, despite the fact that the title of this video is quite clearly obvious as to what is happening today, that's why there's this box rolling around. We've got the Sharkwerks exhaust here, which has been sent over from the US, from the lovely guys at Sharkwerks. Now, if you follow the journey of my first GT3 experience when I had the silver car, which I then wrapped blue, that was my first experience of A, owning a GT3, and B, putting an exhaust on one of those cars. And it wasn't until I had spent time with a car which had a standard exhaust on it, which is this car, that I really appreciated just what a difference an aftermarket exhaust makes. Now, the sound that you've just heard, you're probably thinking, what are you talking about, man? Like, that sounds pretty good. Doesn't sound like it needs an exhaust. And actually, I do agree with you that on the accelerative sounds, like this, yes, calm down, box, stay there. On the accelerative sounds, it certainly doesn't sound like it needs it, but it's the downshifts. It's the downshifts which really lack connection. Now, by convention, it's not like a standard quiet car, don't get me wrong, but from a sports car, supercar standpoint, the downshift doesn't really have the same valve opening explosion that you witness on the accelerative maneuvers. So, the Sharkwerks exhaust is here. Now, you're probably wondering, why have I taken so long to install this exhaust? I've had the car now since April. We've done almost 5,500 miles in the car now, and that's the whole reason, really. I like to live with a car for a while to experience what it's like stock. The reason being that when you eventually do put any aftermarket stuff on, you get a much better feeling for the difference that component has made, and no more so than the exhaust. So we're now heading to a company in Cheshire called ABP. I actually got referred to those guys by a friend of mine who heard that I had a Sharkwerks exhaust and said, why don't you give these guys a go? It just so happens that they're also distributors of Sharkwerks products, so they know what they're doing. And instead of going to somewhere on an industrial estate, you know, outside a major city, these guys are in the leafy countryside of Cheshire, so I get to have a wonderful drive there before ultimately augmenting this wonderful flat six. Let's hit it. So here we are at ABP. Now, of course, what would an exhaust video be without a before and after? So here's what it sounds like stock, and then afterwards we'll do what it sounds like with the Sharkwerks fitted. So here we are. So, just as a brief explanation as to what's happening here, the Sharkwerks system is a bypass, meaning the factory fit sections here, these remain, meaning the factory valves also remain. So the switches inside still operate as if it was from factory, but it's this back box section here, this unit here, which effectively muffles and restricts the sounds exiting these wonderful twin pipes. This is the section coming out, and if you compare the size of this big block with that. So this spindly little open piped unit, and it is pure open pipe, this is the unit which is going to be swapping out this section here, effectively freeing up any exhaust gases and therefore sound which would otherwise get compressed and muffled from the back. Also, while the standard exhaust tips do look pretty cool, there's no substitute for 100mm tips. This is the size difference between these two pipes. Look, you could almost slot these over the factory tips. They're a really nice addition, which from the back just makes the whole exhaust system just just look a little more chunky. Let's have a feel of it. Wow. I mean, size-wise compared to the old tips. Let's have a feel of that. It's night and day, actually. I mean, and this isn't, this isn't made of titanium or anything. It's just a much. So there we go. Out with the old, in with the new, and the weight difference. Obviously, it's hard to convey on camera, but take it from me, that's probably double the weight. Very cool. Okay, moment of truth. Now then, first of all, massive thanks to ABP. I wish I'd have known about these guys sooner. Last time I had to travel quite a long way in order to get my exhaust fitted on the Gen 1 GT3. But not only are they a bit closer, but also... Oh wow! Oh man, exhaust! It's the downshifts. It's the downshifts. Now you're gonna have to forgive the rowdy sound of the old exhaust still in the Sharkwerks box here. I have brought it home. But of course the moment of truth now is finding a nice stretch of open road and sharing with you guys just how good the Sharkwerks exhaust sounds. That sounds above average. So here's the reason why I went for the bypass. So because I do use this regularly, in fact I almost daily this car, the great thing about the bypass system is that, as I pointed out earlier, those two valves which sit either side of the exhaust, that functionality, which is on the sports exhaust button here, with this particular setup is still retained. So if you do want to cruise along at this speed, you can tell that it sounds stock. But as soon as you open it up a notch and you get it up through the rev band, it's really there for you. It's so good. Now I'm not sure if the camera or the audio on this is doing it justice, but there's more bass, there's more treble, there's just more. That generally across the rev range, there's a thicker tone. In fact, dare I say, it even feels like there's been some sound deadening stripped out of the back. It's so much more prominent through the whole ambience of the car, and it's just a bypass. Now, there is some weight saving there, obviously on a margin that is quite small, but it was there. I'm not entirely sure if this provides any horsepower gains. If it does, I can't imagine it's dramatic, but the bypass is all about the sound. And when you're driving these cars, I think we often underestimate the importance of sound, particularly with the connection that it gives you between car and driver. Even the resonance, the way that the sound vibrates the car, it gives like a literal resonance through the chassis. And when you're driving hard, upon downshift, you all of a sudden have a much greater sense of connection with that downshift, that you have initiated a change in the car. This is, look at that, I'm not pressing the throttle anywhere near as much as I would have had to have done before this fitment, just to get that slight tone out of it. And then when we downshift, that's a downshift. What an engine! It just unlocks the character. When you hear these cars going past on full chat, they sound great. But when you hear one with an exhaust on it, it's like, what is that, a cup car? And don't forget, the engine in this car is ultimately the foundation of what forms the GT3 cup car engines. So what we've gone and done with this bypass is unleash the true character, and we've just extrapolated just like another 20% more sound that was sort of muffled and hidden away with the standard system. This now is just perfect. It's not obnoxious when you're going slowly, and you can press that and the valves quieten down, so you can still drive it in a refined, leisurely manner. You don't have to wake up the neighbours when you start the car up early in the morning, and when you're driving through town, you're not obnoxiously loud. It's not I mean, let's face it, this car's bright enough as it is. You don't need anything else going, look at me. But when you want to press the button, and that's great that it's retained the factory functionality, I love that. And then you get up the rev band and the whole thing just sings. It's a wonderful Stuttgart symphony. I love it. It's just right. So, there's the brief introduction to the exhaust. Now, of course, any future videos with this car are basically going to sound awesome. What will be interesting is that I have a track day booked at Silverstone in the coming weeks. Now, I do think it's a high decibel sound limit day, so this car should be okay, but there's nothing like getting a car at full chat. And when the downshifts really come into play, when you really unlock the character of the car, is under heavy braking from high speeds, downshifting. That's when it really barks. What I have noticed with this is that, and this is something that the Gen 1 didn't have, was these lovely whip crack barks on the upshifts, and if you time it right, the downshifts, which we'll be able to hear even more of on track, and once again when the exhaust is bedded in. So stay tuned for content on this car. There's lots more to come. We've got some exciting adventures lined up as well. Also, just a quick reminder, I mentioned it a few videos ago, please, not everyone is getting their subscriber alerts. As I mentioned back a few videos ago, YouTube changed something with their system a while back, which basically means that if you're a subscriber and you haven't clicked the alert bell, basically you're not going to get the alerts when new content has gone live. And people are emailing me saying they've missed loads of content. What's the fix? If you go onto my channel, on the home page, next to where the subscription button would be, is a little bell. If you press that, you will get alerts, notifications for when new content goes live, and you'll be the first to see it. So please hit that link and be sure not to miss out, because there's some really exciting stuff coming that I don't want you to miss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Hear that tone? And I'll see you next time. Ciao!
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.